Today, TSM and Cloud9 face off once again for a spot in the finals. And as with every momentous clash between these two squads, the fans are out in full force to support their teams. TSM Academy picked up the win over C9 last night, and their LCS roster will look to do the same and make their way to St. Louis. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we hear from the coach and rookie of the split, and then preview today's match until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champions Select. Now, in that half hour leading up to the series, we'll be exploring the history of C9 versus TSM and how this time feels different. But first, there's the matter of end-of-split awards, where Avali is standing by with Spring's coach of the split.
Thanks, Dash. Rupert, surprise, surprise, you're coach of the split. Congratulations. Now, before we started this, I was trying to keep it a secret, but it seemed like you already knew.
Oh, I was surprised. Obviously, yeah. I actually think this split, I mean, the Coach Kane and me and Jigs all doing great stuff, but I actually thought Golden Guardians coach or Flycast coach gets the coach of the split reward, because they're doing really well.
I do want to respect the props that you threw out to them. They did put up a really good fight for this entire split, but kind of looking at you, this is your second, or rather, back-to-back Coach of the Split award. Last split, you guys had the crazy roster changes, the benching. You guys went from 10th place to 2nd place. So has this split been a little easier for you?
A little bit easier. If we compare it to the last one, yeah, this one is a little bit easier. Only a little bit.
Only a little bit. Well, with that being said, what was your biggest obstacle for either you or for the team for this split?
I don't understand what the question means.
Biggest obstacle?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Oh, okay. Toughest thing that you had to accomplish. Challenge.
Play with the Niski, probably.
Why is that?
Because it's kinda hard to play with. So we train him as a warrior. We train him as a strong mid laner. Yeah, before one was, so we had a Jensen, right? So Jensen was biggest lane dominate the player and win lane, win game, that kind of player. So we used to be play only that kind of mid laner. But Niski, I'm okay with giving up my mid lane, you know, that kind of style mid laner. So we're training him hard. That was the biggest challenge.
All right, well, really quick, you go against TSM today. Quick predictions.
3-0.
3-0. I am excited to see that game. Reaper, again, congratulations on Coach of the Split. But before we get into that game, Riv is standing by on stage with our Rookie of the Split.
Thank you very much, Avali. I am joined by our 2019 Spring Rookie of the Split. It is FlyQuest Viper taking that home. Absolutely. First off, congratulations. 2016, you started with TLA. Now you stand on the stage ready to play in semifinals tomorrow for the LCS. This year, you kind of talk about a bit of turmoil and how you've worked through it. Overall, what has the journey been like for you, and what does it mean to be here?
Honestly, I'm really glad of how far I've come. And it's been a long journey, I'd say. I expected a little better of myself, but it's pretty good so far. I didn't expect to get here, become the 4th place team, but it only goes up from here.
I've heard you say that a lot, and I have to say, not expecting to be here is a little weird. You have 10,000 games on a champion you have brought into the LCS, that Riven play that you are so known for. What did it mean when your team got behind you and you were able to showcase that skill?
It was good. Honestly, it's hard for a team to pick up a one trick, a Riven player that has that many games on a champ. They're like, oh, can he play other champs? Can he do other stuff? But they saw the mechanics that I had, I guess, and they really wanted me on the roster. So they thought I can translate my Riven mechanics to other champs, and that's what's been going on.
Do you think you'll break out Riven tomorrow?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I like that. Back in January, final question, you had an interview where you talked about Impact being such an influence for you, and you respect him so much in the top lane from your time on Team Liquid Academy. What does that matchup have for you in terms of importance, and what does it mean to you to take Impact on in the semifinals?
This means a lot to me because, I've learned under him for a while. I've always listened to his comms when I was on TLA. He's always been a player I looked up to, but now it's my time to show that I'm the better player.
Viper, thank you so much. Once again, your 2019 Spring Rookie of the Split, Viper.
Our coach and rookie of the split, Reaper and Viper. Of course, Viper will be taken to the stage tomorrow. Reaper probably jumping up there behind his squad right now to give them the last-minute pep talks, but much-deserved awards for both of these.
Yeah, and I've had the pleasure of actually being coached by Reaper, and the thing that he does really well is he gives a lot of players the authority to make choices. So it makes you say, during Champ Select, I'm not making the draft. You are going to decide what you want to play, and you need to understand the game at the same level that I do, and that really elevates everybody's game sense, and I think that's why you see a team that's very cohesive at both the Challenger and the LCS level.
Right. And to follow your point, I've gotten clapped by Viper and solo queue just a couple times to the point where Riven's a pretty good ban in solo queue. I do recommend it. There's quite a lot of Challenger one-trick Rivens up there. Well, he's no longer a one-trick, but good ban.
I mean, he was kind of the front runner from the early stages as the favorite for Rookie of the Split, but the coach of the split race was really tight. You heard Reaper give props to a lot of people. Almost half the league was getting props out of this split, and I think this was one of the closest finishes we've ever had.
Was definitely a more contentious vote than the Rookie of the Split. Either way, the performance of the Cloud9 roster has been phenomenal this split. We'll see if it's enough to take down TSM today. We're taking a quick break, but on the other side, we'll say goodbye to another LCS team eliminated from the playoff race. And the top teams make their pitch for a run at MSI. All that's coming up after this. Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, where we're about 20 minutes away from TSM versus Cloud9, our first semifinal. Last week, FlyQuest took Golden Guardians to 5 games to earn their spot in the top 4, whereas TSM took down Echo Fox in 4 games after dropping that first one of the series. As a result, Team Liquid selected FlyQuest as their opponent tomorrow, which means we get a matchup LCS fans have time and time again seen, but one that never disappoints. TSM versus Cloud9. And with last week's results in the books, it's time to say a fond farewell to another team in RIP Echo Fox.
Some people say like Echo Fox is one of the worst teams, but I don't feel like it. They're good.
I can die for
I'm diving. I'll die for you. Okay. Let's go. No, I pull the pan. Wait, TP, because we can end. Okay. We have a creep.
Your first penta.
Yeah, that was actually my first penta, I think.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Imagine risking losing the game for a penta. Just kidding, we cannot lose. We can't lose.
Backs against the walls. They have to win now.
Rush going forward towards Sven. He's got to be careful. He's found out. That is a huge pick. TSM pick off the opposing jungler. Uh-oh. Smoothie now behind Hakuo. Oh, doesn't get away with the W. Either's got to find someone to run to. Not going to happen. A double kill for Bjergsen. TSM are poised with complete map control to go for Baron.
Already 6 teams have departed the stage, leaving fans to wonder where they should throw their support. So to make their case to be North American reps, we've got a few honorary representatives for each team left competing. We're going to start with High for the C9 camp.
Haven't we heard the same empty promises from previous teams time and time again? Cheer for us. We'll bring home international success. Fans are catching wise. The choice is clear. Cloud9. Support the only team that has the means, the cosplayers, and a proven track record of delivering on the international stage. And another thing fans need to ask themselves, which team would you most want to have Bobo with? Cloud9. The only choice for NA, a choice you can trust. Thank you. Please clap.
You know something? If you had told us 1 year ago that TSM was going to come into semis as a title favorite, well, we would have given anything for that. And you know something? You know something else? Not only are we going to go to St. Louis, James Patterson, we're going to go to Vietnam, and we're going to beat SKT, and we're going to beat RNG, and then we're going to come back to North America, and then we're going to win Rift Rivals, and then we're going to win in Summer, and beat Griffin, and beat G2, and beat Invictus Gaming, and we're going to get our own skins, and then we're going to go to Worlds, and get out of groups, and then we're going to take back the Summoners Cup. Yeah!
TSM, Liquid, Cloud9. Haven't we tried these teams already? And what did we get? Same old business as usual, another international loss. That sounds crazy to me. Fans of North America, we're in deep, knee deep. We all know it. We dove into it like a duck, submerging itself into a pond for sustenance. But just like a duck, we don't have to accept what the pond has to offer. We got wings. We can fly. Ladies and gentlemen, these 3 teams have attended every single international tournament since NA's inception. Since 2009, there have been exactly 69 international tournaments, and we have won 2 of them. 2 out of 69. Is that the score you're satisfied with? What you aspire to? That is beyond mediocrity, my friends. It is AFK. It's time to turn this ship around, a complete 180, fellas. But guess what? Ships are old, and no one even likes water anymore. They like LaCroix. Ships turn 180 too slowly, but ducks don't. They're nimble and capable of sharp turns, unlike ships. And they also have wings. So let's stop the sinking, begin our flight to redemption, join us on this quest, take a chance to change our circumstance. Flight quest! Yeah!
Well, we've heard from 3 of our representatives for the incumbents, Team Liquid. We've got Joel standing by. All right, Joel, why Team Liquid?
Well, I mean, first, they're the #1 seed. They defending champs. Like, what more do I need to say?
Okay, yeah, those are all fair points. I got some questions, though, about the end of the regular split. 1-3 finish in the last couple weeks. That would be concerning to most. Is it not concerning to you?
Not concerned at all. We just wanted to keep it interesting for the fans. I mean, we're showmen, and that's basically the Team Liquid brand.
I see. All right, well, that's not suspicious at all. Well, semifinals. I'll see you here for that after the break.
Stole my yacht.
I can remember every semis that I've played, who I played, what the score was, and because it's like every single match is that important.
Cloud9 with their eyes on the Nexus, their eyes on the summer split.
C9 TSM has always been like a really intense rivalry.
Most of the finals in LCS have been C9 versus TSM. At the very beginning, we smashed them, but I think we lost every other time.
TSM once again, NA LCS champions.
Except for last year.
Big extension! It's a 3-0! It's a 3-2 victory for Cloud9!
Of course, it always feels nice going up against TSM and being able to win against them. Having like the final say, like, yeah, haha, you lost against me again.
I mean, in no way do I really compare TSM last year to the TSM that we are now.
Finds the ult, brings the cleanse flash. Naga's got the first damage. 2 games in a row. First blood to TSM.
We're going to do it differently, and we're going to win this time.
Last season, I think we were successful with the tools that we had, but now we have, bigger and better tools.
Everyone expects TL to win. That's my old team. They've been dominating the whole regular season, and then FlyQuest just randomly shows up and takes it out.
FlyQuest defeat Team Liquid!
I think that would be hilarious.
I know he really wants to beat us and show that we made a mistake. We should have kept him, but FlyQuest, I mean, there's a reason why we picked them. We have the best chance of beating them. I'm always worried because in playoffs, anything can happen. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to take down a really tough opponent, and I think we are the really tough opponent.
Back-to-back sweeps! TL's the best team in North America!
Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, where the first semifinal gets rolling in just about 10 minutes. Today, we've got another chapter in the longest rivalry in the LCS, where both teams once again meet in a semifinal.
Yeah, last time they met was 2017 Spring Finals, and that was a best-of-5, went the whole way. It was super hype, and they have matched up more than any other team in history of the LCS.
Right. Yep. And they've played a total of 75 times against each other, most of any rivalry in the LCS. People always CLG, TSM. No, C9, TSM have 17 more games now.
Well, it always makes good games, too, so you got to watch.
All right, and they always extend those series, generally to 4 or 5 games. 2 members, though, have consistently been in the crossfire of these struggles, and those members are Bjergsen and Sneaky, of course. No matter how much the teams have changed around them, these two guys remain the same.
Yeah, and if you look at their all-time record, it looks like it's in C9's favor. Sneaky has 42 wins, 32 losses, whereas Bjergsen's just under 500 with 33 wins, 34 losses. But if you flip to playoffs, the story goes the other way. Sneaky's the one just under 500, and Bjergsen has the advantage of 17 and 13. So, gonna be another storied matchup between those two guys.
Well, playoffs is all that matters.
Yeah,
every time, right? That's where you actually get the trophy at the end.
And I think if you look at recency, right, you know, Bjergsen, or a lot of those wins for Sneaky come from the earlier days of Cloud9 when he made the run.
A couple of those are Reginald. 3 of those losses are Reginald.
Yeah, very much so. And we've already, of course, seen what it takes to take down Bjergsen in the postseason. But just to further impress Bjergsen's insane record, he will be the first player in the LCS history, to hit 100 playoff games during today's series.
Game 3 is when it will happen.
Exactly. We're guaranteed at least 3 games. He's at 97 now, so he will hit that 100 postseason games mark in this series. Just as we did last week, though, for Golden Guardians versus FlyQuest, let's see where the analysts put their faith lane by lane. Starting with the top lane. To save ourselves a little time, I had them throw their faces up there during the commercial break. All 3 of you say that this is a Licorice favored matchup.
Yeah, I wanted to go as far as Hyde did, but I didn't want to cover his face up, so I went a little left. But this is, for me, super in Licorice's favor.
Right, there's no reason not to pick Licorice over Broken Blade. That might change throughout the course of the playoffs itself. But for now, there's no reason to say that Licorice is not the better top lane.
I mean, I agree that Licorice is the better top laner. That's why I went that way. But you guys are putting it almost all the way at 100%. And while he does have the flexibility that he's been playing carries and tanks, Broken Blade has been playing way more carries, and to me, it has a pretty substantially deep champion pool that you have to give him some credit, to the point where he might have some crazy counter picks that Licorice may have not practiced against.
Right, but you have to keep in mind, with that giant champion pool that's shown here, there's a lot of losses on those champions, actually, so it's a bit deceiving to say his champion pool is bigger when there's a lot of losses.
And champion pool doesn't mean different playstyles either, so I have no doubt that Broken Blade will not run out of carry champions in this matchup. The question is, if that stops working, can they flip their playstyle another way? Because so far he has 1 Scion game, so it feels like they are stuck with him on the carry top matchup.
A peek at the top lane matchup. Let's jump on down to the jungle. So as you guys throw your faces up on the board, just as a reminder, this is Sven Skaren versus Acadian. Acadian played in his very first playoff best-of-5 just last week. Had some pretty impressive stats, but I think you can't ignore the change in Sven when it comes to regular season to playoffs. Something miraculous happens.
This is something we've always known about Sven. He always turns up when it comes to international games, playoff matches. He plays much better in those times. So he has so much experience in these high-pressure moments, whereas Acadian has only had 1 playoff series, and to top things off, he really only played 1 champion in the rec side, so he hasn't been tested. His champion pool has not been attacked, and those are situations that if you're not used to in playoffs, they're gonna happen, and you're gonna have to be able to adapt quickly. I have faith that Sven could do it, not yet. In Acadian.
I think it would be closer to Acadian's favor if we knew that he was going to play like last series every time, but there's just not enough sample size to trust him quite yet. And in the regular season, he did struggle with late game engages, which is going to be super important for both junglers.
All right, so far, we're very much C9 favored in this matchup, but we still got 3 more positions to go. Let's hop on down to that mid lane. Of course, Bjergsen, who's going to hit that 100 mark in the postseason games today, up against Niski, the guy who replaced Jensen, looking to make his stamp on the LCS as well.
Damn, Hyde's all the way over.
Woo! All right,
I have some personal experience playing versus Bjergsen and Niski, and to be fair to Niski, it was quite a while back, but there's a large difference between the two, and just looking at both players, I gotta say Bjergsen is pretty dominant compared to every other mid laner that's played in the LCS, and I don't see that changing with Niski.
That's a graveyard right there of all the mid laners that Bjergsen has.
Don't worry, you're at the top of the pile.
Yes, I am happy about that, kind of.
Of course, Golden Glue, the only undefeated mid laner against Bjergsen in the postseason, is available to sub in if Cloud9 needs him, as they did just last year against Bjergsen. But of course, they will be starting with Niski. So let's talk a little bit more about that matchup. Mark, why are you willing to put it that close?
I think it's really important. Both these guys are the highest in kills and assists at 15, and so this is the heat map of their kills and assists at 15. Bjergsen is red, and you'll see there's a lot more focused around the mid lane for Bjergsen. But when you go up to the top side of the map, it is heavily Niski favored in terms of where these kills are happening, with TSM's play style being so top lane focused, C9's is the same, and they do a better job of getting Nisqy out there and influencing that. So that's where the concerns about Broken Blade start factoring in. It's not just about the mid lane, and Nisqy himself says this all the time. I don't really care about my mid lane matchup specifically. It's about helping elsewhere.
Something super interesting about that heat map, only Bjergsen is fighting around blue buff. Nisqy has no instances where he's actually contesting that objective.
I don't care about that.
Yeah, so what's up with that? I think that Bjergsen knows that these objectives are very important. When you play against TSM, they will always contest the buffs every single time, and you see that Bjergsen does it. Just blue buff.
Red's whatever. Just blue buff.
I think it's a really interesting conversation, too, to look at the mid lane and say, all right, within the lane itself, Bjergsen favored. But what happens when the guys get out of the mid lane? And if that's the reasoning why you're willing to say, okay, the matchup's a little bit, he's going to go affect the top lane more, and that's where I think the matchup hinges around, then, hey, now it's only a 60-40 matchup instead of
I wish I moved that a little further.
Okay, what would you say? Would you say 65?
I'm committed still.
35? Okay,
I'm still committed.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the ADCs then. Sneaky, the other long-standing member of these organizations for Cloud9, up against Sven.
Ooh,
whoa! Is that right in the middle?
Right in the middle, James.
Smack dab in the middle. Oh my goodness, all three of you are in agreement here. Okay,
I'm not in the middle.
Okay, slightly on Sven's side, but the closest matchup we've had so far here on this corkboard. Let's start with the two guys who are slightly Sven favored.
Right, I love Sneaky, but they're very similar in their play in that they're both very consistent AD carries that aren't extremely lane dominant. They'll do their jobs in lane. But when I think about Sven and Sneaky, the difference is that I think Sven is a harder carry than Sneaky is. When it comes to super late games, I believe Sven has the edge and be able to pull out the team fights.
I think he's a little bit more consistent in lane as well, and I like that they have played some more lane-dominant things, so they get a power point on the map so they can more easily play around the top side. I like how they all work together, and I think Sven is just slightly better this season.
I think it's going to be really interesting about the Varus pick. We saw it be heavily contested in the previous series. Sven has a match on there, and while we know Sneaky can play it, guarantee you that pick is going to start turning up because being able to engage from the bottom lane is going to be huge in unlocking the rest of the team to play whatever carries they need.
My favorite aspect of the bottom lane is the fact that it's a duo, so we have to consider the supports when we're talking about this lane in its entirety.
I have so many pins.
Smoothie versus Hazel.
You can take some of my pins.
I don't know, just in case he dropped them or something. I don't know.
In the middle.
Right smack dab in the middle again. So we have a very even matchup here in the bot lane, it seems.
I mean, Zazel and Smoothie are practically some of the best supports that the league have alongside Core JJ, and with Sven and Sneaky being so close, this matchup is most likely just going to be determined based on the champions that they select. So when it's so much about champions, I tend to gravitate towards 50-50 because you don't know what to expect in the draft.
Right, they're both huge playmakers that have last shot calling prowess as well. It's hard for me to decide which support I liked better, and I really think they're very similar to each other.
They're really similar. I think Zazel's been a little bit better over the course of the year, so I'm going to favor him just a little bit, and I liked how he does a good job of making a lot of engages, and you can hear his shot calling is super clean, where sometimes Smoothie gets a little energetic.
So it's very interesting to me that we seem to have kind of agreement here in the consistency of the bottom side of the map for both of these teams, and then large disparity in terms of the matchups from mid, jungle to the top lane. The next consideration is how this might factor into your three's predictions for this series today. So, who do you think's booking the first trip to St. Louis High? We're going to start with you.
Well, I have to go with my team, Cloud9, because I supported them with my political campaign, and here I am supporting them again to go to St. Louis.
All right, fair enough. A 3-2 prediction, though, so you're calling it a close one.
Yeah, I don't foresee it being a 3-0 like Reaper says. If he does get a 3-0, I'll buy him some dinner or something like that, but I doubt it. I see this being a 3-2.
Fair enough. Crumbs, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that Cloud9 is going to be able to take this one home. Even though I have been saying for a while that I thought TSM would be the favorites in the entire playoffs, look at this chart right here. C9 has two members that are already heavily favored towards them in a meta that favors the top side of the match. I'm not sure how much Bjergsen is going to be able to skew this matchup. This, to me, is the X factor, is Nisqy. So because we have yet to see him perform against Bjergsen, I'm going to take the safe bet and go with Cloud9's top lane, 3-2 for them.
All right, Mark, you're the biggest C9 fanboy on the board.
Well,
so,
I mean, what are you talking about? I vouched for TSM with my political campaign, and I'm going to flip-flop and also take C9.
Whoa!
But I'm actually going 3-1
TSMs.
because I don't, even though this is really close, and I think TSM has a good chance of actually winning the series, it doesn't feel like a 3-2 series where it's going to be back and forth. I feel like play style will be so important for what happens, and I think it's really in C9's favor, the play style, and we can go into that forever, but unless TSM changes things up, plays more around mid lane, plays more around bot lane, and doesn't play to the top side, I think this is heavily in C9's favor. And I don't think, unless, one of the two styles will win, and it won't be this back and forth like you see with the Golden Guardians FlyQuest series?
I mean, I think it's so, it resembles so well what we saw in the regular split. We had the idea of the rock, paper, scissors, but we also talk about, Cloud9 coming back in those games and their ability to find that one turnaround fight somewhere in the game, as well as the playmakers who can make it happen. All three of you agree that this will be a top-side focused matchup?
It should be. That's what we've seen all season long.
Bot lane is so close to each other, right? And top lane, there's a big disparity, and then for mid lane, a big disparity too. So it's going to be the entire top side of the game that's going to make it for us.
It's so much easier to play safe in the bottom lane right now, whereas you have any matchup top lane, it's so easy to dive in and just snowball it out of control.
And to hop onto the point about the rock, paper, scissors and some of the game time stats you've heard us referencing, and some people in the community think we're just throwing those around, what you need to understand is when TSM wins from behind, they're going up against the fastest team in the league. So if you fall behind versus C9, you're gonna probably get crushed.
Right.
And then when you have your slower games, which they do have a lot of fast ones more recently for TSM, but if you do have a slow win, C9 also has a lot of comebacks as well, and they do really good at these kind of, if you look at their gold graphs, they're not these slow comeback in the game. They're, as our stats team describe it, a hockey stick.
Yes.
Where it's this, and then boom, they're suddenly in control. And so they're such an explosive team that TSM does need to pick their pace up against them.
The longer the game, the more opportunities the team has to find that one fight they need to turn it all around. It is a very interesting conversation. And of course, as you mentioned, the hot streak for TSM, separating recency from the average of their entire split. You don't want to call week one a similar performance or a good indicator of how they'll play in the playoffs themselves. You've heard from us about our thoughts on the matchup. It is a prediction for C9 across the board in a fairly lengthy series. With that, we're going to throw it out to the guys in the battle arena to get ourselves into this first best of 5.
Thank you very much, Dash. I'm Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns. I got a fresh haircut here for the game today, and I got even fresher co-casters. I got my buddy Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley and Sam Kobe Hartman Kinsler here to bring us through what we're all hoping is a 5-game battle.
Yeah, despite the fact that the desk was unanimous in the C9 prediction, I think